So the snake was never evil. The snake always represented wisdom. The snake always represented the carrier of wisdom. And you gotta comprehend it in this, Sophia. And when you talk about the cosmic Nagas, and you talk about how you have physical Nagas and you had Nagas in the cosmos. So you have what you call the the snake actually makes the braiding of DNA. The Nagas were trying to show how the DNA is properly braided to bring into certain life forms of existence. So this is all the DNA on Mount Hermon, which is in the mind, right? And this is all the DNA teaching you how the DNA is has been, manipulated in a certain sense, not in an evil way, but just manipulated. So the Nagas in physicality, they were on the Three Peak Mountain or Mount Hermon. And this represents you. This is also representing the body. This is also representing spiritually. So you have what you call your different classes of, you have your Nagas is an Indian term, right? And you have your Seraphim, which are angelic class in the Bible. So you have a physical Naga, which is a snake-like being that has been here on the earth plane. It's been humanoid or snake, or just human within terms of in the tribe of snake. But we understand that the snake holds the wisdom to the DNA. So this is the whole explanation of what the snake is. So anytime you see the Seraphim, you gotta understand the Seraphim is actually talking about your highest class of angelic angels with the fiery serpent. If you look at what Seraphim actually means, it's the fiery serpent. So you understand that the Seraphim is some of your highest class of, Elohim when you're talking about the angels, i.e. angels in the Bible. So you have many different classes of angels between Seraphim, Cherubim, Rephaim, Nephilim, Ish, amongst many other names they were called in many different texts and things like that. But this is mainly what the serpent is. So the reptile goes all throughout man's history, right? And the Seraphim is a non-human angel equivalent to the Watchers or the Elohim, and in your Judaic and Hebrew text. Because the DNA is light, and to manipulate DNA, you have to manipulate light. On Earth, they were later known as the, I'm going to say it like this, they were known as the Brotherhood of Light, or the Exari, right? And Canaan, the seed of Canaan, or Zun, or these negative, or these forces that go against the natural forms of creation, what happens is they corrupt the knowledge. So everything that was meant for us, or meant for our understanding and overstanding of who we are and to learn our power, has been manipulated to be considered evil. So now this is why we consider the snake evil, because of the Bible and other things like that, not knowing that that some of your these other classes of beings have created these so-called books and manipulated them people through these so-called books that like the Bible and different things like that. So a lot of times, this is why I tell y'all, it's not just about, it's not just about any information. It's about the right information. The right information leads to the right right understanding, which leads to the overstanding, which leads to the right knowledge and sound right reasoning, right? So you understand that if I know the knowledge and know how everything connects, then I can no longer be confused. I know what to study. I know where to go and get and find things. So that's why people who say, oh, what book did you get that from? Where did you cite that from? You don't understand that if it doesn't matter where you cite it from and what book, if the knowledge doesn't correlate to the spiritual knowledge, then it's irrelevant. It means nothing in that sense. So, they had corrupted since these beings had corrupted certain things. You even had places like Dendera and many other places that were burnt or they burnt things to the ground, or they burnt these places to the ground because they were the holders of this knowledge that we needed, this information. So they tried to get rid of the Nagas information altogether, right? And the Nagas always worked with tying these bloodlines together. So you understand that on the earth it plays out in terms of a place. In the spiritual realm it plays out in terms of beings, but on the earth it plays out as a place. And then it can play out in smaller forms inside of you as well as different things like that. But it all plays out in the reality in multiple ways. So now you will have the 7 heads that are on you see a snake, the snake with the hood with the 7 heads and the 7 bodies. This represents the 7 outflows of the Nile River. And since they were talking about places and not people, Saraswati represented the Nile, right? The Nile River. And Lower Egypt, or Heliopolis, is heaven, and Upper Egypt represent Nubia, or the underworld. So Saraswati is a Vedic name for the Nile, and the Nile begins underground, or the abyss, or we talking about the double caverns of Philae, or this is a location that is in Nubia. So, and this is just a location to get to the underworld. Now, any ruler or king that took over a certain part of the earth or certain places would name themselves after that place. Like for example, if I was to rule over, let's say I ruled over Atlanta, just give an example. If I ruled over Atlanta, I would be named King Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? In that same sense. So what happens is, since the Naga people were causing certain dysfunctions with King Alexander and Alexander the Great and a couple others that were doing things around that time that they wanted to be in control of certain aspects, because this was all about wars and kings and who wants to rule over this, who wants to rule over that. So what happens is, when you look at the Gordian knot, it's a knot that that if you look at one of the snake pictures, the Gordian knot is a knot that kind of braids everything together. You see all these braidings, you see all these knots in this. It looks like almost like snakes, almost. But this is a reference to bloodlines. And so when Alexander the Great said he would cut the Gordian knot, or he would remove the Nagas from history, basically saying he would cut the bloodline, he would cut the knot, he would cut the Gordian knot. So he would wipe their ties from everything altogether. Now, when you deal with the land of when you talk about the Egyptian god Sesha, or the snake god, and we'll talk about Sesha some more, the Egyptian land and the land called Nun were different names for the same land. So Sesha also stands for the core aspect of creation, or that remains when something is created, or when something in creation is destroyed, and then it germinates into another creation. So Sesha represents this aspect that remains, or this is like when you deal with how, or they say Vishnu and the aspect of creation. So Sesha is like it's like the information that remains, right? Or the carrier of the information that remains, but everything else in that reality is germinated, or it's used for another universe, or for another creation, something in creation. Just like how you create planets and everything else from suns and different things like that. So, but also physically, you're talking about a place that, on the earth, we're talking about these levels of vertebrae and things like that. So I'm gonna have a part 2, because I know this video finna end. So on part 2, I'm gonna talk about how the snake connects to the 33 vertebrae. So in the last video, I talked about the wisdom of the serpent and what the serpent actually represents, and what is the serpent energy, physically, spiritually, and different things like that. Now, to continue part 2, if you didn't watch part 1, go ahead and go back to part 1 and watch that first before you watch this video. But the Hyksos kings, or the Ishvaku, or you know what I'm saying, if you ever heard of the Hyksos, look them up. They would pervert the teachings of the Naga. So, I'm not saying that there wasn't Nagas that did that have quote unquote have free will and did things on the earth to fuck things up as well. But the the Hyksos would primarily pervert the teachings of the snake, so you would think that the snake is evil, or you would think that a serpent is evil. And this is why you constantly see these Abrahamic and these other different religions that worship these different beings like Ariman and these other beings, because the the snake itself was teaching you about the wisdom, how it carries the wisdom. That's what Sophia is. So you understand that the snake that carries the wisdom is like the Elohim, or like the angel when you think about the Seraphim class of angels. And we understand that the Seraphim class is the highest class of angels. So how can snakes be evil? You're talking about the snake in different aspects, and how, depending upon if the snake is a physical being or not, if the snake has been a physical being, then it has the ability to do whatever it wants, to choose its own, whatever, you feel me, anything down here. But when we're talking about spiritually, the snake plays a role when it plays a role when it comes to the knotting or the braiding of DNA. You know what I'm saying? So right there, right? Keep in mind where we at. So Sesha, like I said, stands for the core aspect of creation that remains when something is destroyed, when it germinates into another creation. So when we know when there's no creation to maintain, Vishnu is resting on Sesha, or you're talking about how the information is carried over. So, or the information from the previous thing is carried over into the next thing, as well as the soul and different things is still always going to remain. You have to really get it in aspects. So the snake god Sesha, or Hay, would migrate to India and different other places, right? But these we're talking about even the worship of these different beings, because these beings had a representation of energy, and because these beings had influence on the earth, whether spiritually or physically, you have different tribes that took on the qualities of these beings, so to speak. So, for example, they say that the god Hay, or Sesha, was revered by the Nubians, and Nubians means gold, and Sesha was with 33 kings, right? And this is where you're talking about the Freemasons, how they adopted the 33 degrees of the spine, because the spine was the body of the snake. The spine is a representation of the body of the snake. So the 33 degrees, or the 1/3 of the spine, were like the lights on the earth. When we're talking about how you have a 33 degrees spine, but then once you go to beyond 33 degrees, you're going into a whole different reality altogether, spiritual wise. And you're connecting upper and lower Egypt. You're connecting the spinal cord. You're connecting the upper half and the lower half of the body, but you're also talking about when you're connecting the higher cosmos to the lower planes of existence. This is all the same thing. We're talking about the serpent knowledge, and how the serpent carries the information, and how it braids the DNA. So this is both physically and metaphysically how it plays out in the reality. You have to comprehend this and understand this. So the when the Bible talks about the serpent was cursed to crawl on its belly, it's because the Ishvaku kings, or you're talking about the Hyksos, had messed up the ancient bloodline of the Nagas on the earth. You understand? So you have a reality where many different beings were fighting and trying to control this reality. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's what it's been. And so it's always been a thing for the man to understand, because a man, from the Greek meanings, the man understands that he has to unite upper and lower Egypt. The man understands that he has to bring the two conflicting energies, be able to bring the conflicting energies of the bird and the serpent together. Be able to bring the conflicting energies of the different bodies that are in whether it's the emotional body, the physical body, the spiritual body, these different bodies, and be able to learn how to put them in their correct places in order, and learn how to, so to speak, braid the reality, so to speak, weave it, like the cosmic weaver, Neith, or Neth. I don't know how to say her name. So, Metaphysically, this is always talking about higher and lower frequencies being able to be balanced. So this is the wisdom of the serpent. This is the understanding of the serpent. This is the understanding that the serpent, it was not just as low as the ground, it's also has been the highest in terms of angelic presence. So so for you to really comprehend it, we are the God man, right? Meaning the man has the ability to tap into all realms. The man has the ability as a man. The thing that these other beings, that these disagreeable beings don't like about us as much is the fact that the man is able to tap into the higher and lower frequencies. You're able to tap into whatever frequency you want. But not only that, you're able to be the unifier between all of the energies. You're able to become the Godhead over all of the energies that have to become subjective to you, because the animal is to animate something. So the physical body is an animal because the physical body and the spiritual bodies are to put something into animation, or to have its breathing of in and out, to have its flow of, these different flows. So you understand that the man is like that mediator. You feel me? Not able to have these conflicting forces working together. That is the key. That is the wisdom of the serpent. So, should you ever be afraid of any deity or any serpent or any bird being or any other being out here that is in the spiritual realms that was once physical? Or do you understand the wisdom that was presented to you that they came with when they had these ancient teachings that have been corrupted by by Alexander the Great, by the Hyksos, by many other different forces that was out here trying to make you think that something is evil? Because if I can make you think it's evil, I can utilize the knowledge and get ahead of you. I can utilize this knowledge and one up you in whatever we do. This is the key, right? And so the key always comes back down to the right knowledge, right? You don't got to be perfect. You don't have to know everything, but it's just knowing the right knowledge. What does it all represent? What does it mean? This is why they had the symbolism of the pictures and of these different sculptures and different things in your history books and everywhere. It was not meant for them to try to decode it like they just know everything. No, you know the definitions. So you know the root of the word, right? But you understand once you get the root of this word, what is the symbolism trying to tell me with these roots of these words and the etymology and different things like that? You feel what I'm saying? For example, like I said with Sesha, even though Sesha was revered as a god or a goddess, you gotta understand that Sesha itself is a being that is also that has a function in reality, has a functioning in this reality, just like all your other body parts, or just like the universe has its own functionings within itself. But you are the Godhead, so it's the understanding that they're not worshiping anything. They are teaching you how to upgrade yourself, how to elevate yourself in the spirit, in the physical and spiritual bodies. Even I told you, even when you talk about the Holy Spirit and you're talking about speaking in tongues, what do you think they're doing? This is the serpent language. You feel me? This is why they do it. This is why you always constantly hear them speaking in tongues. I can do it at will if I want to, but it's a higher language. It's an angelic language. You understand that when you are tapping into these forces, what forces am I tapping into? Should always be the complete version of your whole field of yourself, a whole field of being of the creation of what we are. The Holy Spirit as well as the Most High. Right.